Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Now in this episode we've got a Ford Ranger in the Built Not Bought workshop. It's one of the first cars that have been in here since it's been built up, and we are doing a brake upgrade.
Sam from Built Not Bought.
Alright guys, that is right. Welcome back to the Built Not Bought channel. Make sure you hit subscribe and like this video if you enjoy. Now, Ford Ranger is back. A lot of you guys were following along on the channel because my brother's Ford Ranger, we've done a few bits and pieces on that. Now that I've moved to Queensland, lucky me, Mac Preston, he's also got a Ford Ranger, so we can continue doing those bits and pieces on the Ranger. So there'll be a bunch of videos coming out, I'm sure, doing mods on this type of dual cab vehicle. Now today, of course, we're doing the brake upgrade. So before we even get started, we're gonna head out and do a test at 80 k's an hour, see how this thing pulls up with the standard brakes, then we'll get it in here, do the upgrade, and do the same again. Okay, so to make sense of this whole thing, of course, we need to do a real world example. So what I'm gonna do is get Mac to drive up to 80 k's an hour, and say for example, a kangaroo jumps out, you wanna slam the brakes on, you obviously wanna stop in a shorter distance. So not only the other added benefits of upgrading the brakes, but there's also the fact that you're gonna pull up shorter, hopefully. So let's see what happens. So we'll run up to 80 k's, pull up, I'm gonna leave a mark, and then when we do the brake upgrade, we'll come back again, do the same test, same conditions, the only difference with the new brakes and rotors, and then we'll see if it pulls up quicker.
Mac Preston for Shallow, here for Built Not Bought, there's the brake test! Woo! Hey, arms up. Oh, we're arms up, we're going.
Alright, so this is where it's pulled up. I'm going to put a marker on the side of the road here and we'll do the upgrade and essentially just see if it pulls up shorter. Nothing scientific. I'm not going to bother about measuring it or anything. Actually, I could probably do that on the screen later. Yeah, I might measure it as well. 36 Sam steps, or roughly 36 meters. Alright, let's pull it into the shed. Alright guys, so now we've got the Ranger up on the hoist there, got all the wheels off, ready to attack this brake upgrade. So before we do that, I just want to take you through why you should upgrade your brakes in the first place. Now, obviously I did a video a long time ago on my patrol and there was a good response to that, and it's something that's overlooked a lot of times with four-wheel drive. So because when you get a four-wheel drive, they're built stock, but there's so many things you can do to modify them. And living in a place like Queensland, which I am now, by the way, there's so many places to go check out. So you want to do things like a canopy, get it ready for touring, tents, fridge, all that stuff adds up the weight, as well as bigger tires, which Mac's already done on this four-wheel drive. So he's gone to a bigger size tire, which increases that rolling diameter, which in turn, if you do a bit of physics, means that your braking performance is decreased. So this is going to help combat that and bring it back to where it should be. So I'll show you what we've got today. Now this is a full kit that we got from Bendix. Now it comes up ready to go in the box, everything you need. All right, so what we got in here is some braided brake lines. Now I'll take you through why that's important as well. Now this has actually been done for a lift kit, because the first thing that you want to do when you lift a four-wheel drive is to make sure your brake lines are long enough. We've also got some new pads, so these are some ultimate brake pads that help with the compound on the brakes. We've also, for the front, got some new rotors. Now these are fully slotted vented rotors as well. Look at that, bloody shiny. So they'll be going on the front there. And then we've got a bunch of stuff. We've got some .4 brake fluid, some lubricant for your parts in there, and some brake cleaner as well. So everything in the kit is ready to go to do this brake upgrade kit. So let's get onto the Ranger and start pulling this thing apart. All right, so the plan is now that we've got everything sorted, we're going to pull the brake lines off first, I reckon, and get them to start draining, because then when we pull the calipers off, we can just put them aside. Normally, if you're not doing brake lines, you can just pull the caliper off and sort of cable tie them up here out the way when you're doing stuff with pads or rotors. But once that's out the way, then we should be able to slide the rotor off. Simple change doing that. And then essentially just punching in these new pads into the caliper, putting all that together, bleeding up the brakes, and seeing how we're looking from there. All right, so just quickly before I put these new brake lines in, I want to show you the difference between the factory ones and the new braided ones. So there's a few added benefits to go into these braided lines. Number one, obviously it's way longer, so this is designed for the 4-inch lift kit. So if you want to do any lift on your four-wheel drive, keep that in mind. Number two, it's a bit more durable. Things like rocks, sticks, bits and pieces hitting up underneath the undercarriage when you're four-wheel driving. It's got like a steel braided insert in there, so it's more durable to that kind of stuff. Now that also has another added benefit. Now you can imagine putting your foot hard on the brake, that actually increases the pressure in the line. Now with the rubber, it can swell a little bit, which actually takes away that feel on the pedal. So with the braided line, because it's a much stronger material and has that braid in there, when you slam your foot on the brake, the pressure increase in the line won't swell like the rubber would. And you actually get a more direct feel on your brake pedal because all that fluid is going straight to pushing the caliper rather than spreading inside that rubber hose. So that's why we're chucking them on. We're whacking the new rotors on now. Clear difference you can see with these. The standard ones are just a solid piece, but they've obviously got little vents in the middle to stop the heat coming out, or get the heat coming out. Now these new ones, they've got some little dimples and slots in there, so that helps with the cooling and also helps with the gases, because you can imagine if something's on a surface and it presses down, you can get a thin film of like air in there, and it's kind of almost like a hockey puck on an hockey puck on an air hockey table. So these little slots in there help the gases escape as you put that clamping pressure on the rotor. So it just gives it a more direct feel and a way better braking capability. All right, so we're getting the pads out. Now these ones, the range is actually pretty sweet. I haven't seen one of these before, but apparently it's on a lot of cars. They actually come out the back, so you take half the caliper off where the slider is, and then you can pull the pads out the back instead of taking the whole thing off like we had before. So these are the new ultimate pad rotors going in there. Not rotors, these are the new ultimate pads going in there. So they're essentially a similar design, but it's a different compound. You get all technical with all the chemistry of how these work and that, but it's basically going to handle a lot more heat. And on the rear, they've got it feels like a foamy type of rubbery backing, which stops your brakes from squealing. You know, you pull up and an old car's like, and it's like you're pulling up and it squeaks, and it's because it's metal on metal. So on the rear here, they've got that soft pad there to stop that squeaking. All right, there we have it. The brakes have been installed. So we've done the rotors, the pads, and the brake line as well. Brakes are pretty simple. They essentially work like any other hydraulic thing, the same way as your trolley jack works. Even this hoist as well, it's just pretty much forcing hydraulic fluid onto a piston, onto whatever it's trying to push into, which are the pads in this case, onto the rotor. So obviously generating heat as well as the braking force. So with this slotted rotors, it's helping with that heat. And then the new compound on those pads are going to help with that force. So in theory, it should be better braking capability. So the last thing for us to do, just going to run around and bleed up all the brakes. Obviously safety first, make sure you don't forget that step, probably the most important thing to do. So we've got that new dot for brake fluid from Bendix there. Whack that in there, and then we're going to repeat that same test we did at the start of the episode, where we can see how much it's going to pull up when we do that 80 km/h brake test. All right, we're back at our testing facility. Now look, we're going to do the same test, 80 k's an hour. We've got the new brakes in there, so it's a little bit more windy. You got some headwind, might be an advantage, but everything else is the same. So all we've done is change those rotors, pads, and lines, and we'll see. We pulled up last time at about, I think it was 36 or 38 meters or something. Nothing too crucial there, but we're really looking at whether or not it's better or worse than before we'd made the changes. So let's find out.
80, 40, 50.
God.
Yeah, it's like a whole car length.
Oh, there you go. That is the second test. Bloody impressive. I don't know if you can see over there. There's a tiny little dot, which was where it's almost, I reckon it's half the distance. I'm absolutely blown away. And I tell you what, he pressed the pedal the same, because both this test and the one earlier, we kind of heard the wheel lock a little bit. So the ABS kicked in. So he was standing on the brakes. And if the ABS wasn't there, I'm sure it would have just locked completely, but it kind of took over, and it shows there's so much more braking capability in what we've got here. So I'm pretty impressed with that. And as I was saying before at the start of the video, when you go and add more modifications like a canopy and a tent and a fridge and all those bits and pieces and the bigger tires all add up and take away from your braking. So by putting a kit in this, something like this will take it back to that factory capability and stop like it should. And it's something that's overlooked so much in four-wheel drives. You know, people think of the safety bit, essentially it's cheap insurance, you know. Rather than crashing into something, you'll have better braking. What? My drone's gonna crash apparently. Oh, I better land this thing. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Hello guys, and welcome to Built Not Bought HQ. Make sure to click on the far left to subscribe to the channel. Click down below to see the latest episode if you missed it. And don't forget our merchandise on our website. See you in the next episode.